Good evening, everyone. This is Ryan Hoyme, aka Massage Nerd, and this show is brought to you by our friends at Massage Magazine Insurance Plus. Massage Magazine has been exploring touch therapies for over 25 years and has used that industry knowledge to develop the best value liability insurance in the business. And I want to thank Eric Dalton for sponsoring this presentation and offering Massage Nerd listeners to a 10% discount on all his home study courses. Use the code MN10 when you check out at ericdalton.com. And another sponsor is Shalene Taylor. She turned her struggling massage therapy practice into multi-million-dollar, multi-location success, and now is showing others how to build a purposeful and profitable massage practice. Visit www.iambiz.com. Welcome, everyone. This is Ryan Hoyme, aka Massage Nerd, and today we have a special guest. We've had her on last year, and her name is Tina Dietz. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you.
Yep. So we're going to be going over a little bit of business stuff, a little bit of marketing stuff, a little bit of coaching stuff, a little bit of every stuff.
We like stuff. Stuff's good.
Yep. So how did you get involved in the industry since you're not a massage therapist then?
Oh, well, that came about kind of in an interesting way. My background is kind of a strange combination of having grown up in a family business, literally in a family business. I started answering the phones when I was 4. I started going to trade shows when I was 6. And then, so it was really water to the fish for me growing up. But I had no intentions of taking over the family business, and I went into counseling. And I worked all over the counseling and education industry, higher education, working with students, developing not-for-profit agencies, working as a school counselor, transitional services, career services, all of that, teaching. And after our family retail business had run its course, my parents decided to pursue careers in the holistic world, which was a pretty interesting transition to go through as a teenager, let me tell you, going from a retail business to a holistic business. But my father is actually the massage educator, Patrick Ingrassia. And at one point, he came to me and said he was developing a massage business where he was going to be teaching continuing education. And he asked me if I would come on with him to develop the business end of it, the systems, to work with him on the marketing end of things, the branding, and also to kind of build out his courses, since I have the background in academia. So that is what ultimately turned into the NIADA Institute of Massage. And that's kind of how I ended up coming into the business. And that's been about over 10 years now.
Well,
in and amongst other projects
Yeah.
that I've been working on and other clients.
And you're always busy, I know that. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think to be an entrepreneur, to be a business owner, you got to be a little OCD or a little ADHD or both.
Yep.
So that's pretty much how it works.
And you deal a lot with massage therapists, but you also deal with other business owners and stuff.
Yes.
What do you think is the difference between the massage therapist and regular business owner then?
Oh, there's some pretty interesting distinctions in the massage industry itself. The massage industry, one of the things about massage therapists is, I've talked with hundreds of therapists over the years, possibly even thousands, and what I hear from them, there's a massage therapist story, but 85% of massage therapists that I talk to tell me this story. I became a massage therapist because I had a massage and it changed my life, and I wanted to do that for other people. So if I had to kind of make a distinction, that is the story. So people don't, 9 times out of 10, people do not go into the massage industry for prestige or for money. And right there, that sets it apart from a lot of other industries. There's no ladder to climb in the massage industry, really, unless you create your own ladder. So massage therapists primarily are, they're practitioners, they're healers, they're therapists. They're people who are making a therapeutic difference, whether they're, regardless of the setting that they're in. And that in and of itself, someone who has that kind of personality, even though personalities do range across the board, I would say that the average massage therapist, obviously this is a broad statement, tends to be less business-minded than the average business owner, sometimes significantly so, and also tends to be a little more concerned, or a lot more concerned, depending on the case, of in dealing with things like sales, and also how marketing is presented. How marketing is presented. It's a very feeling industry. People feel very deeply. They feel very strongly. And so there's not the same kind of hardness, a hard shell on the outside of the industry like you'll see in a lot of other industries that tend to be, very, very jaded. Massage therapists, by and large, want to be very authentic and kind of wear their emotions on their sleeve, even in their business dealings, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something to take into consideration.
And do you think massage therapists just give too much of themselves, give too many discounts too? And
they can. That's a big pitfall, is giving too much away, because you want to offer incentives when you're in business, but at the same time, you don't want to devalue your work. So my main recommendation to massage therapists is to, and this is actually kind of funny, because when you're marketing to massage therapists, there's a difference here. When you're marketing to massage therapists, honestly, price is usually king. The average massage therapist in the United States makes about $30,000 a year. It's not a money industry. We're trying to change that. I know I'm a big advocate for changing that, and work in that area. So cost is, when you're marketing to massage therapists, cost is a huge, huge factor. On the other hand, though, what I recommend to massage therapists when they're marketing to their clientele is that instead of bringing your costs down, although there's sometimes that's appropriate, a lot of times you want to add value on instead. So offering a 90-minute massage instead of a 60-minute massage for the same price. Or if you have retailing inside of your business, which is a whole other topic, adding products on as a welcome gift for new clients, or as a thanks for being a loyal customer gift, or if somebody refers someone to you, to give them a little something, whether it's an extra session or extra time, or something as simple as a nice bottle of aromatherapy oil, or a self-massage tool that they can work on themselves in between sessions. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of manage that and do that. But the main key is you want to always take a step back, and here's the thing: because massage therapists are so gut-oriented, and again, speaking broadly here, I'm sensitive too.
Yeah.
Not really. But is to go with your gut. Go with that feeling literally right in the middle of your body, in your energy center, and ask yourself, is this promotion, is this pricing, is it aligned with who I am? Is it aligned with my business? And you can literally play with different numbers and see where you can actually kind of feel it in your body. It's not something you'll find. That's not a technique that you'll find in any traditional business planning session, but it's very practical, it's very pragmatic, and quite honestly, most business owners, whether they're massage therapists or not, they do make very emotional decisions. So if you're going to make an emotional decision, make it a good one.
Yep. And this one therapist I know, she charges $60 an hour for a massage, and then $50 for a half an hour massage.
Okay.
Yeah, just because she just thinks it's more cost effective. She just tries to push people to the hour massages. Is that feasible, would you say? Or?
Yeah. Well, I would say it's unusual, but her thinking is absolutely right. You definitely want to maximize your time, and that's one of the nice things about adding on services like assessment, or certain modalities like Lomi Lomi or Thai massage, or whatever, that naturally fall into that hour and a half, 2 hour time frame, or adding on different services that you can kind of put on, based on your regulations, of course, and you always want to stay inside You always want to be in integrity with your ethics and with your regulations. But that, there is some variation on that from state to state in terms of what massage therapists are allowed to do or not do. So, and some people are dual certified as estheticians and massage therapists, which is, a whole other world.
Yeah, and I know so many therapists are scared of selling. I mean, even the word sales just makes them run the other way, kind of thing. But
yeah, they respond to sales that way too, by and large, massage therapists. I work with some marketing companies, and one of the things that we've noticed is that massage therapists tend to hit the spam button much, much, much faster than most other industries.
Wow.
Even for something that they already signed up for. So since I actually have the stage here, I would like to let people know that if the unsubscribe button is always at the bottom of an email, and please unsubscribe rather than marking it as spam. And the reason that is because when you mark things as spam, you literally shut people's businesses down. Now, there are some times where that is legitimate, where people's businesses should be shut down if they are actually spamming you. But if it's a legitimate educator who's reaching out to you because you gave them their contact information at a conference or whatever, unsubscribe. It'll get you, don't mark it as spam. You wouldn't like it if it happened to you. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
That's my public service announcement. We can have a little star go across, and we can say, "And now you know." Okay.
Yeah. And it seems like there's a lot out there too. I mean, in the last 5 years, it seems like there's so much massage information is just pouring out of people's pores. It seems. And
well, it's your fault. That's clear.
I kind of retaliated because when I went to massage school, there's hardly anything out there. So I just felt a little being a rebel or something. And
no comment.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens when you build a 25,000 page website, Ryan.
Yep.
Come on.
So is social media, especially like Facebook, is it the big buzz, would you say? Is it really all what it's cracked up to be?
It depends. Social media can be a really wonderful tool, but especially if you have a local business, it's not necessarily your best tool. It's not necessarily what I would go to first. There are certain things. The internet, and you know as well as anyone else, Ryan, the internet's been on this really interesting journey in terms of how the internet has evolved in terms of sales and marketing and how people interact with it. The internet went through a period that was very hard sales oriented, very buy now, and the running sales pages. But wait, there's more, and all of that. And you still find a lot of it. But really what's happened, and this started happening with blogs becoming very popular, and then with the social media sites coming into play. Prior there was really just email and websites, but when things started to become a lot more interactive, the internet started to shift, and now what people look for is to have relationships with the people that they're buying from. Even if and they feel like, and I agree with this, you need to trust who you're buying from. But this is really no different than any business relationship ever in the history of business. You cannot replace word of mouth marketing. It is, especially for something like massage therapy that is very trust oriented, that is very therapy oriented, therapeutic to your body, mind, and spirit. And so you're always looking to create a relationship. If you have what we call a bricks and mortar business, a storefront business, or a home business, or even if you're renting space in any kind of facility or salon or spa or anything like that, you are your own personal brand when you're a massage therapist. When people meet you and you say, I'm a massage therapist, they're immediately going to have a judgment about that. So how you present yourself out in the world is, quite important. Way more important than making sure that you have the perfect fan page or the perfect website. There are lots of people out there that have thriving practices that don't have a web presence or a social media presence. It's simply a different way of marketing yourself. And I don't claim to be a social media expert. I use a lot of social media. I'm still a little Twitter phobic, but I'm getting over it. And I think there's a lot to be said, and there's a lot of traffic to be driven locally. But if it's something that intimidates you, I would say that you always want to focus on your relationship building, your word of mouth, creating relationships with referral sources out, in your community, and reaching your target market on the ground. And then, building up your social media and your website and all of that in a quality way, rather than trying to do it fast. That makes sense.
Yep, because the thing is, you don't want to put out too many posts, otherwise it's considered like spam too, and then people unfriend you or do all that stuff. So
yeah, well, and the nice thing about social media that isn't quite the same case with email is that social media is a lot easier to ignore. So quite honestly, you can get away with a lot more. You can get away with posting things and reposting things and all of that. And people will get irritated, but they won't necessarily block you or unfriend you unless you are really appalling or really, going against something that is a core belief or are being harassing. Like, I know I personally on Facebook, if anybody tags me with a freaking shoe picture, they're done.
What about a sandal?
Any kind of footwear. You're done.
Yeah. Yeah, because you briefly mentioned about Twitter. I mean, Phyllis asked, what about Twitter? She really doesn't like it.
Yeah, I am not a fan of Twitter yet. And I had a Twitter account, and I had a couple hundred followers on it without really doing anything with it. But I stepped back from it and decided for myself, to focus more on Facebook and LinkedIn, simply because I found I had a much greater confidence level, and I also had a lot more contacts. So my personal social media plan doesn't involve getting into Twitter in the next couple of months. But I actually have a Twitter mentor. So, so even coaches get coaching. We do need it.
Yeah.
Because it really is all about finding the gaps where you're not strong and creating team around that as well.
Have you played around with Have you played around with Google Plus at all yet?
I have an account on Google Plus, but that's about as far as it goes.
Yeah.
I'm waiting until it kind of reaches a critical mass. I don't see a need right now to pursue it. And I do have to say that the vast majority of my clients come from personal referral sources, or they come from shows like this where somebody felt like they could connect with me, and then we end up having a much longer conversation about them personally. So it really is all about a relationship, whether you're doing something that I do, whether you are providing a therapeutic service, or even if you are selling a widget. There has to be some sort of trust there, or relationship that you're going to get what you need.
Yep. And then what are some of the biggest mistakes you've seen therapists make in their businesses over the years, would you say?
I think probably one of the most prominent ones that I see is a lack of confidence. And usually how that shows up is when a massage therapist doesn't act on an opportunity. And usually that opportunity comes in the realm of promotion of some kind, of self-promotion of some kind, especially with their existing clients. Your existing clients are already fans. They're already for you. They're already for your success. And it's important, to let your clients know. And there's, of course, a million different ways to do that. That's a workshop in and of itself. Let your clients know that their referrals and letting people know it is important to you, and that you're very grateful for that, and to acknowledge those referrals. So whether that is simply, that you have a referral policy that you do you give them a 90-minute session instead of a 60-minute session anytime you refer that, and you don't have to post that on a poster on the wall. It's just something you do. When you make that next appointment, you can say, oh, well, John Smith told me that you referred them to me, and I really appreciate that. So let's book your next appointment, and let's make that a 90-minute instead of a 60-minute, and that last half hour is on me. I really want to thank you for that.
Yeah, and you would think that that client would be totally sold after that too. Then I mean, they would even respect you more.
It does.
Yeah.
It reinforces it. There was a really interesting study. This is actually, they did a summary of it in Success Magazine some months back about they were studying service workers, specifically wait staff. And there's some very close parallels in the service industry, regardless of the industry you're in. So whether it's, don't take offense at this is just what they found, is, everything from nurses to massage therapists to customer service representatives to wait staff. There's a lot of parallels in how customers react to those service providers. So what they found in terms of the wait staff was, if the wait staff gave an unexpected treat at the end, and in this case it was mints, we're not talking about anything major here, their tips went up an average of 17%.
What?
Yeah.
Just by mints.
Just by mints. But if the mints were expected or they knew they were coming, it didn't necessarily make big of a difference.
Oh.
Here's the weird part. If they put 2 mints for every person at the table, their tips went up even more. I kid you not. I really do. I kid you not. So if a massage therapist wanted to take a look at that research and wanted to do a value add, you literally could send your client home with a really nice piece of antioxidant-rich dark chocolate, and it would probably increase their I'm dying for somebody to try this. Somebody please try this and let me know how it goes. I love organic research. And see if it makes a difference in your client's reaction to you. And then that's the other thing. You can hand out all kinds of things to your clients. You can offer promotions and things like that. I mean, the key though is, and this goes back, let me tie this back in, it's really an issue of confidence and of asking for the next appointment, of asking for the referral, or even asking for a referral to a potential strategic alliance. And again, a lot of this does get regulated by law, so do check the laws in your area. But strategic alliances are an extremely powerful way to get referrals. You don't have to work in a chiropractor's office to get referrals from a chiropractor. Sometimes chiropractors have in-house people. A lot of times they don't. So they're always looking for good practitioners to refer people to. Same with, you can do that with acupuncturists or, anything else. You can even look in some unusual areas, like your lawyer or your accountant. If you have a good relationship, anyone that you have a good relationship with that's kind of on your team, on your personal or business team, your financial advisor. Financial advisors are extremely well connected. You can simply just make a request. If you know anyone that you think who comes in really stressed out, in terms of their money situation, or they're really stressed out, would you keep my cards on hand and give me a referral? If you have a relationship with them 9 times out of 10, they'll say yes. And if they say no, it's no big deal. You're no worse off than you were before. So it really is a confidence issue. Same if you want to work with a sports team. Call the office, offer their head guy, a complimentary massage. And confidence is one of those things that you have to grow in your capacity. I say a lot that certain things are like building a muscle. You have to allow them to grow. You don't want to jump off a cliff. You don't want to have that sensation and that kind of an anxiety level. You want to grow in your capacity to take on more and more, or to step out more and more as you go. So it's really important when you're building confidence, because sometimes if you step way out, and someone says no, you're really back emotionally to square one. And if you're not prepared to kind of deal with that, if you haven't kind of built up that thicker skin, it can have an emotional impact on you. So, baby steps sometimes is the key.
And I know for myself, when I go to a Chinese restaurant, if they don't give me fortune cookies afterwards too, it's upsetting just because you expect it all the time, you know?
It is, and I don't even like fortune cookies, but I like the fortune, so
Yep.
I get kind of irritated if they don't put them on.
And and what would you say to somebody who is concerned about coming off as a salesperson too?
Mm. Yeah, this is a big issue. No matter who you are. I always have this thing about the 500-pound phone. You go to make a call to like call a potential client, or to ask someone to come and see you to literally make a sale, and all of a sudden the phone weighs 500 pounds and the keys are made of acid. You can't keep yourself to do it. So one of my mentors years ago made a huge difference for me, because even though I grew up in a retail environment, we actually sold wood-burning stoves and fireplaces, if you can believe that. I was the only 5-year-old in my kindergarten class that knew what double-wall black pipe was, or the difference between soapstone and cast iron. See, I started talking about me and I lost the question completely.
About being a
I enjoy
salesperson?
the sound of my own voice sometimes.
Yeah, about being a salesperson?
Salesperson.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So one of my mentors years ago, when I was really struggling with stepping out, it was just such a great piece of advice. He said, "You never ever a salesperson. You never need to be a salesperson. You always be a problem solver." And that simple statement shifted the entire context for me of what sales is all about. Because I've never known myself to be a salesperson. I do know myself to be a problem solver, and a very, very good one. So it's very easy for me now to pick up the phone, because it's not about me anymore. See, sales are not about you. Sales are all about the other person. Getting into their world, finding out what they need, what do they want. And then if you have something that helps them solve a problem, it becomes very natural to work together. And that's really all it is being a problem solver. And it doesn't necessarily take a long time either, but it's a matter of making it all about them, listening, always listen more than you talk, which I'm not doing in this conversation, and making sure that you are focused on solving a problem. Because let's face it, if there's no problem, there's no need for a sale. And that goes for everything from a bobby pin to a massage to a spaceship. Doesn't matter. No problem, no sale.
And this one therapist, when I first started out, he was a hard salesperson. I mean, he would even tell the client, "You got to get in here once a week, otherwise you're going to get worse." And I mean, he would almost threaten the client all the time, and it just scared me in a way, and it just even pushed me back from even recommending things and stuff.
Yeah, fear-based therapy.
Yeah.
Bit of an oxymoron. Yeah. But I've seen it happen too. Yeah, it's unfortunate, and that approach is still out there, but it's pretty rare at this point now, thankfully.
Yeah. And how do you incorporate referral figures into the massage therapist business plan?
The referrals and the strategic alliances.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to kind of build on what I said previously, it's an area that is really important. referrals and strategic alliances are a keystone in, most industries. When you have people that you like to work with and that you like to refer and that you trust their work, again, it's very natural to refer them. And it's a very common practice in a lot of industries to for money to be exchanged over this. Now, because we're dealing with therapists, sometimes we're dealing with doctors or chiropractors, that's not always the best way to work. And honestly, sometimes, a lot of times it's illegal. So we don't want to break any laws when we're doing this. But really it's a matter of creating, I'll say it again, creating a team. And this teamwork is really, really important because you're creating community, you're creating synergy, you're creating, alliances, sometimes even friendships with people that you trust your clients with. And you want to be the same in return. You want to be someone that they trust their clients with. Because when you refer someone to someone, you refer your client to somebody, it's your reputation on the line. So if your reputation is important to you, which I'm sure it is, then you're only going to refer your clients or the people you care about to someone that you trust. And, pretty much vice versa. So, again, it really does come back to relationships. And sometimes it's a matter, in terms of reaching out and finding those people, hopefully you have your own group of practitioners that you go to, that you trust, and that's often the best place to start. If that doesn't work, let's say, your chiropractor has an in-house or in-office massage therapist, and that simply would not be appropriate. You can have a very honest conversation and ask them, do you have any colleagues who don't have massage therapists in their offices? And, I'm looking to create an alliance, and I don't want to step on your massage therapist's toes by any means, even though, of course, I would prefer to work with you. And then be quiet and let them share with you. And again, if it's a no, you're no worse off than you were before. Another good piece of advice about sales from a mentor of mine, I love to pay these things forward. If you walked up to somebody with a chocolate chip cookie and you said, hey, you want a chocolate chip cookie? And they said no, is there anything wrong with the cookie? Answer the question, Ryan.
Is there anything wrong with the cookie?
Is there anything, if I walked up to you and offered you chocolate chip cookie and you said no, does that mean there's anything wrong with the cookie?
Not necessarily, no.
No.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the cookie. It's the same thing with sales. If you go up to someone and say, hey, would you like such and such? And they say, no, thank you. There's nothing wrong with you or what you do. They just don't want the cookie.
Yeah.
I personally would never turn down a chocolate chip cookie. But
especially homemade, it's disrespectful if you don't
absolutely.
eat something homemade. So. And then another problem out in the field too is, you kind of mentioned it before about another massage therapist working with another massage therapist, but it seems like so many massage therapists are kind of isolated, and they're protective of their clients. They don't want to share, and even when they're working in a business that has many massage therapists, I mean, there's a lot of competition, even though a lot of people say there isn't, but underlying there is. Yeah,
absolutely. It's business.
Yeah.
There's always competition in business. There's really no way around that. That comes down to more of a question of personal branding and being clear with yourself about who you want to work with. One of the first things I tend to do with my private clients is to have them map out their own values and to map out their ideal client. It's important to work with, you can't have a scarcity mindset. And that's unfortunately one of the things I do see a lot of in the massage industry, and I think what leads to this national average of $30,000 a year for full-time work. The other factor, of course, being therapist burnout and injury, which is a whole separate issue. Um, but yeah, you've really got to brand yourself, carve out your own niche, carve out the people you want to work with, and then feel comfortable when someone comes along that isn't your ideal client to refer them, to someone who it probably would be their ideal client. And that's where getting involved in professional organizations, or having massage buddies, having your compadres, your posse to hang out with and commiserate about the industry, because being isolated in any industry is never any good for your business, but more importantly, it's lousy for your well-being. And that's why, also that my preference is to coach in small groups, because that sense of isolation disappears and, creates new connections and new resources. It just fulfills so many different things. So, on the ground, whether you are, doing a meetup, or you're all alumni from the same school, or your colleagues, there's some great team building things that you can do if you've got colleagues all working in the same practice, to come together and kind of work through exactly the kind of issue you mentioned, Ryan, about competition, so that the workplace has a sense of freedom, and that's an ideal situation.
Yep. And then Phyllis in the chat asked, there's a therapist in the area who had surgery and is referring to our business. We make it clear with our clients that we are filling in until the therapist is able to resume her work. Is that a good business?
That's extremely considerate, and definitely a good business practice. So yeah, Phyllis, that's one of those it's the right thing to do kind of conversations. So yeah, I definitely acknowledge you for doing that.
And then Herb in the chat asked, until they like you better, then what?
There's always a risk. You can't force people's decisions. You can't force people's choices. People always have the freedom of choice of who they go to, and if they like your work better and start coming to you more, that doesn't fall back on you. That actually falls back on the client. And that's a risk in business. Now, what you can do is you can repay the courtesy, and refer somebody back to the other person. I mean, as long as they're someone that you think does decent work. That's the other issue. If you feel as though they're not a good practitioner, then but you're never, I hope, you're never going to see a street fight between two massage therapists fighting over a client. I mean, the worst it's going to be is uncomfortable. And sometimes business is just uncomfortable. And all you can be is responsible for yourself.
And why do you think the average massage therapist is only in the field 3 to 5 years?
A couple different things. One is that they are unprepared for the realities of the industry. It's certainly gotten much better in the way that massage therapists are prepared, and also in the opportunities they have available. Just with the rise of massage franchises in the last, it hasn't been that long, maybe 10 years, really more like 5, how they've really started to grow and develop. And regardless of what your personal feelings are on the quality of massage or how things get handled there, it has provided an enormous amount of jobs, especially for therapists just coming out of school. So in that sense, it is a really great training ground for those folks just coming out of school. Massage has also become hugely more accepted as a medical treatment. And of course, there's lots of nurses. It's now being used in oncology, which was unheard of years ago. People were told not to massage people who had cancer. And fortunately, that falsehood was gotten rid of, and all of that. So, and I'm going to ask you again, Ryan, what was the question?
About 3 to 5 years, and usually they're out of the field.
Oh, man. See, this is what happened. I'm working with Gloria Coppola as a health coach, which I recommend, by the way.
Yeah.
And she's got me off caffeine. And see, this is what happens. So I haven't adjusted yet. No. So the 3 to 5 years, a couple of things is a lot of massage therapists go into this on a part-time basis. And they just don't keep up the practice because of other priorities or their other full-time job. That's one area. Another area is they are unprepared for the physical toll or the mental and physical toll that it takes to do enough massages to make a living at it. I personally, I know of some therapists who literally will do 8 60-minute massages a day.
Oh.
The one person that I know who did this and did it for, quite a long time, she did it 5-6 years, at that pace, pretty much every week, had the metabolism and the energy of a hamster. I mean, she was just one of those people that was constantly, full of energy. I do not believe the average person can do that. The other thing is that while, yes, massages make about $60 an hour on average, that $60 doesn't necessarily flow directly through to the therapist. So it's difficult to make a full-time income when you're only physically able to work part-time hours. And that is largely why a lot of therapists do opt to work in either multiple settings. It's also why tips are so important in a lot of settings. And or they opt to have their own practices or work in a medical area where the money tends to be better. So that's one end of it. The other end of it is kind of building on the physical strain thing, is that massage therapists get injured. Because massage therapy is heavily a second career for people. People are coming into it, they're not 20 necessarily. There are a lot of 22-year-old, massage therapists out there, but not the majority of the industry. And it's a lot of wear and tear on the body. There's a lot of injury. I think it's 47% of massage therapists report that they've had some sort of work-related injury in their career. That's a very, very high number. I don't even know if mining has that high of a number in terms of work-related injury. There's a lot of risky, industries, but there's a lot of injury in this industry, and it tends to be shoulder, low back, wrist, and thumb are the big ones, and then behind that is knee. But there's a lot of different ways that you can alleviate those issues. And I'm speaking a little out of turn here because I'm not a massage therapist, but having worked for so many years with Patrick and developing the Body Saver method and the principles of longevity and all of that, you've got to be kind to yourself. You've got to work with your table at the right height. You've got to use the table as your friend. You got to sit for a chunk of your massages, and you got to use body parts other than your thumb. That's kind of it in a nutshell. If you're going to have a long career, that's what you need to do. And then adding on other modalities that are less hard on your body, like cupping, theracupping, using tools like the hot stone AccuRoller or bamboo or things like that. Hot hands, all of those different kinds of tools and things like that, to whatever extent that you feel that they're effective and you can use them, that's all going to play a part in how long your career is and what you're able to do over time. You can't work on athletes every day and use your thumbs for the majority of your work. You mean you'll have Tyrannosaurus hands? No.
Yep. And then Phyllis in the chat asks, is that Energizer Bunny, is she still in business? The one who's doing 8 hours a day?
She actually she was in Toronto, and she moved to Montreal to get married, and ended up having 4 kids and being a stay-at-home mom. And is very happy to be so. But I actually haven't talked to her in the last couple of years, so I don't know how old all her kids are at this point, and if she's still home with them or if she's gone back to the massage therapy practice. I do know that she was pretty exhausted, and she was also in her mid-20s when she was doing that. You got 4 kids, and yeah, I'd say the odds are slim to none that she's still doing that.
And is it okay for your clients to rant and rave?
Well, ranting is something that I teach my clients. Ranting is a whole technique. And this is something that this would be more of a client dialogue technique. If you like to do dialogue with your clients, or you do any creative visualization or anything like that in your sessions, which are also nice value adds, and I highly recommend. But ranting is kind of something that I'm known for. And people ask me, why do you encourage your clients to focus on what they're complaining about? But what I do is I teach people how to rant effectively, and it's basically it's a technique. It's actually an entire problem solving technique around how you bitch about things. It really is. So, but the trick to ranting that makes it very different than your average run-of-the-mill complaining is that when I teach people to rant, it's short, it's encapsulated. Ranting is 2 to 3 minutes long. It is absolutely authentic. You got to say it how it really occurs to you. Don't sugarcoat it. And you also rant with an intention. You rant with the intention to move past the problem. So, there's ranting kind of in a nutshell. But then, after people learn how to rant, which it's really a clearing technique, it shifts the entire energy of how somebody is operating. And the whole purpose of ranting is to be real and be authentic and to clear your own space so that you can get to a solution rather than letting the hamster wheel fry your brain. But there is actually a problem-solving technique that takes, once you learn it, you can do it in just a couple of minutes, and is really, really effective for getting unstuck really fast. Because I don't like being stuck. I don't have time for it. So.
Yeah, one of my past clients, he was just put on Coumadin, and he was just irate, just upset about it. And the thing is, I would kind of joke with him when he'd come in the next time about it, just because he would just rant about it, and then he would just totally let go then afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the pitfall is that it really does need that structure. Ranting can't go on forever, because then it ramps up into righteous indignation, and then you get more stuff. So it's really got to have that intention to let it go, and you've got to keep it to that 2 or 3 minute mark. I actually have clients who will be rant buddies, and they'll call each other a couple times a week, or possibly even every day, to start their day. And they start with a rant, and then they get on to creating their day very quickly. It works.
You got to write a book on that.
I have one in process.
Okay, good. And what's the title?
I don't have the title yet. You write the book and then you make the title.
Oh, okay. And is there any cost-effective ways or low-cost ways to do marketing and advertising? Because so many people are scared about all that stuff.
Yeah, marketing and advertising. Most people don't realize that when you own a business, how much of your time and your budget goes to marketing. A new business tends to spend about 40 to 50% of their time, and about 25 to 30% of their budget, if not more, on marketing. An established business will spend about 25 to 30% of their time on marketing, and hopefully you get the budget down. But when you're starting up, or you do have a small business, or you have a small budget, and you want to get yourself out there, it really you gotta definitely be strategic about it. I think people get too hung up on websites and social media. when really what the core of marketing is, what you have to do before you really build a website is to define your brand. And brand building is a specialty. It's not a specialty of mine, actually. But I do work with people on it. If people really want to get into it with an expert, I have strategic lenses. I have people that I refer people to that I trust. And you can really get into defining that brand. But there's really questions you want to ask yourself is, if my company was a person, what would they look like? What would they act like? What would they feel like? Are they an elevated expert? Are they a trusted advisor? Are they a listening friend? Is it like an older sister? Or is it like your grandpa? Brands have a feel to them. And if you can define kind of the personality of your brand and the feel of it, then you start to also look at your ideal clients and what you want to look at. And you want to look at your strengths. Don't look at your weaknesses. Do you know what you get if you work really hard on your weaknesses?
You get better.
You get really strong weaknesses.
What?
And that actually is another pitfall. I'm not saying don't address your challenges, but if you come from a strength-based perspective, if you come from what you're really good at, and either delegate or outsource the rest as much as you possibly can, it's a lot easier to start creating flow inside of your business. I'll give you an example. I'm really good at creating programs. I'm a good coach. Obviously, I like to talk. I like to analyze. I like to plan. All of those kind of things. But the world of bookkeeping, I'm not a fan of bookkeeping, not at all. But I found out, much to my surprise, there are people out there who like to do bookkeeping. like it a lot. I was like, wow, really? You like this stuff? They're like, oh yeah, I could never do what you do. Oh my God. I was like, wow. And there it is. And all of a sudden, it's like a team is born. Out of nothing. So trading is one way to reduce your marketing costs. If you want to do some trades, if you're going to do a trade with somebody, make it very specific. Get it in writing. The only problem with trades is that you're dealing with human beings. And human beings, they'll make an agreement, and then they don't, there's always that issue of not following through on it, especially with a trade. But if you have someone in your life who you already know builds brilliant websites, let's say on your table is someone who owns a marketing company or something like that, you might negotiate a trade for services in kind. People have been bartering for centuries. Why stop now? Another way to look at it is to use the internet and use services like Fiverr. I use Fiverr regularly for different services, or Elance. And I haven't had as good of experience with Elance as I have with Fiverr, strangely enough, because on Fiverr you're only paying $5 for something. In Elance, it can be quite expensive. But what I can tell you from my lessons learned over time in hiring service providers is that a lot of times, and especially in this economy, people are looking to freelance. And you can find some amazing things. You can find web designers who will do like a 5-page WordPress website for you. Not junk. We're talking about good websites. You always look at their work ahead of time. Make sure you get a list of everything they've, a bunch of things they've done, for about $150 to $200, or certainly under $500. They're not going to help you with the branding and things like that, like a full service marketing company is going to do, but it'll get you up and running. You can also use all the free websites as well. And there's nothing wrong with that, although I think if you're going to go with something free, you really want to try to use WordPress, because it is optimized for searchability. It's got a lot of flexibility, and it looks better. It looks like a real website. If you're using free sites like that you might find through GoDaddy or Vistaprint or things like that, they're not very flexible. They're not very expandable, and I don't think it necessarily gives people a strong image, a strong professional image. So those are a couple of things. Also, I always recommend, if you're going to have a website, instead of spending a lot of money on search engine optimization, which ultimately you should do as your practice grows, but when you're starting out, you might not have the funds to do that. You want to make sure that your business is registered on the search engine sites. So you want to have you want to be registered with Google Local, Google Places, Yahoo Local, Bing Local. Those are different than search engines. When you have a place for your business, if you're not all over the place and international, and people are coming through your door, you want to be registered with those websites, search engines, as a local business, so that they find you when someone is looking for a service provider in your geographic location. And those are free. It's free to register yourself on those sites, and it's relatively painless. And then the last thing is, one of the things you can do instead of search engine optimization is to work with your URLs, your website names. And I usually recommend to people that they have a half a dozen website names, all directed to their main names. Your main name should always be your strongest name, and preferably have your location built into it. So if you can get John Smith Massage Therapy, Buffalo, New York, you should get that if that's where you're at. Even if your main URL, your main website name is John Smith Massage Therapy or John Smith Massage, when you put your name into it, you're more likely able to get the domain name. And then if you put your geographic location in it, you're also more likely to be able to get the domain name. And the search engines like those domain names. And then you basically just forward all the domains to one main domain. It's a lot less expensive to buy half a dozen, URLs, domain names for $10 a piece once a year, $60 total, than it is to get a page optimized with search engine optimization. So hopefully that will help you to snowball your traffic. And of course, websites are a whole other ball of wax. And I'm not an expert there either, but I know enough to be dangerous.
Yep.
So.
And with your teaching background and stuff like that, I mean, teaching students, and where are students losing it? I mean, it seems like it's better to get them at the ground level, to get them kind of geared
it would be nice.
Yep.
It would definitely be nice to get them at the ground level. I think a lot of the practical knowledge is what they don't get in massage school. You're so busy in massage school learning the actual trade, learning the actual practice, trying to memorize every part of the body and the attachments and the insertions and the contraindications and the modalities and what comes next. Do I start at the feet? Do I start at the head? All of that. You're really in it. That you're not necessarily thinking about the after. And I think that the best time to start planning your massage career is the first day you walk in the door of that massage school. It should be something that is on your homework for yourself from day one. And there's a lot of schools that offer a lot of really decent business classes. But I will ask you this. Are those business classes being taught by successful business owners? And that's something that, you don't want to look down on someone if that's not the case. But if that is the case, then I usually recommend to people that they do their own work. Read.
Yeah, and back when I went through massage school, the person teaching it, she said she had 3 failed businesses and never had a successful one. So all the students just turned off right then and there.
Yeah, that probably wasn't the best thing for her to say.
No.
Because let me tell you, there's a lot that you can teach someone from a failure. There's actually more to be learned from a failure than a success. But ultimately, you do want to be learning from someone who has achieved more than you have. You know, you want to have good mentors. You want to have people that, you know, they've achieved some success, and they don't necessarily have to be a multimillionaire. You know, you don't have to go that far. You can, I some of my mentors are up at that level. Some of them are not. It really kind of depends, because it depends on the kind of lifestyle that you want to be leading. And that's really what a mentor is, someone who kind of has what you want. And then, you go to them and kind of see how it gets done by and large. So students, start planning your career the first day of your first class of massage school. If I could offer you any advice on that at all. That, and ask your teachers for job referrals out in the community. Because it's a lot more effective when you get introduced by a common friend or a common person, and you don't have your own network yet in the industry. It took me years to build a network in the massage industry. So go with the people that you know. And this is also and this is something you massage educators out there can tell your students. Don't piss off your massage teacher. We know people. So. Yeah, but that's another thing is it's always great to be able to actually speak to students at massage schools, which I can do over Skype, which is nice. It's convenient for the teacher, it's convenient for the students, and I know some other educators who do that as well.
Okay. And then what kind of things are you going to be up to next? And are you going to be at any conferences this year?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. In June, I'm going to be at the World Massage Conference, which is online, of course. And that's always a biggie. I think there's like 15,000 people registered for it. It's kind of nuts. And I'll be speaking about creating your ideal massage practice. And I'm really happy because I'm going to be sharing some space with Ann Catlin from Center for Compassionate Touch. We're not speaking together, but we are speaking kind of right next to each other. So, and I have such respect for her work. And then I'll be at the Canadian Massage Conference in the fall, which is probably consistently my favorite conference. One, because it's close to me. I live in the Buffalo area, so it's always nice. And I'm really, really excited that it's going to be in Niagara Falls, because it's my stomping grounds, and I want to make sure that people feel really comfortable and just squeeze every last drop out of that conference, whether they're from the U.S. or from Canada. And then it's looking like next year I may be at the American Massage Conference as well in Atlanta. So I'm really looking forward to it. The American Massage Conference is coming up in just a couple of days, and I know it's a blowout event. It's a great event. I always recommend that people go to it. It's so much fun, and it's so educational, and I love that you can be a la carte about it and just pick the classes that you really want. And I'm also personally a fan that there's no political agenda, so you can just really focus on your education and the industry.
And are you still doing coaching on a regular basis and more individual?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I tend to work in a couple of different ways. I work business to business, where I work with a specific business. Usually, because the background I come from, I tend to work with businesses that are either franchises, business to business that are 10 employees or less, startups. I love to create from nothing, so I work a lot with startups. And also family-based businesses or partner-based businesses, because those pose some unique challenges in terms of relationships. And relationships are something I always bring in with the business, because you can have the best business plan in the world. If you don't have a good relationship with your business partner, you're pretty much screwed. So you gotta work with that. And I also run international coaching groups, and those are groups, small weekly groups, 4 to 6 entrepreneurs, and we create some amazing mastermind. And that's one of those processes that you go from the beginning to the end, and you almost don't even know how you got there, but all the somewhere along the line, stuff just starts happening. And you come out of that with your 5-year vision plan and your perfect day coming into reality, and a really, really strong set of muscles in terms of habits that are going to sustain your business for the long term.
Okay. And then what's the best way for people to get a hold of you then?
You know, I'm everywhere. So, if you go to thisistinadietz.com, you can definitely reach me there. And you can also find me on Facebook as Tina Dietz. I think there's not too many of us. So, and my fan page on Facebook, because it is my personal mission, is 10,000 Thriving Businesses. So if you look on Facebook for 10,000 Thriving Businesses, the number 10,000, you'll find us there as well. So any of those. And if you contact me, you can also reach me on email. I don't mind giving out my email address ever. So it's tinadietz10k@gmail.com.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much tonight, Tina. You filled my brain again.
Processing for the next 2 days. I'll be getting emails.
Yeah. Yep.
I love it.
Yep. And thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thank you.
Yep.